Cows by Matthew Stokoe is one of the most disturbing, unsettling, gross books I have ever read, and yet I couldn't look away. It falls under a subcategory of horror known as Splatterpunk, or extreme horror. Now, I'm not going to be getting specific about the content of this book. However, I am going to give a content warning, because the pages of this novel, should you choose to read it, depict a lot of brutal violence, sexual abuse, and animal abuse. And the video just got blocked for everyone. I wanted to talk about this book because ever since I read it last year, it has been steadily on my mind. I have never forgotten about it, and I recommend it to so many people, even though I tell them not to read it. Now, even though Cows is the only book I've ever read by Matthew Stokoe, from the research that I've done about his other novels, it seems that his themes that he likes to write about across all of his books seems to be a lot about nihilism and brutality and marginalization above all else. He also doesn't really seem to be much of a plot writer. The plot in this book is very weak. It's mostly about trying to gross out the reader as efficiently as possible, and for Cows, he definitely succeeds. Now, like I said in the beginning, Cows falls under a subcategory of horror known as extreme horror or splatterpunk. This subgenre is known for its brutal depictions of violence, gore, and a lot of sexual abuse, and no taboo. It somewhat has a cult following. There is a very broad selection, much broader than you may think, of readers that love splatterpunk and extreme horror, some even calling it their favorite genre. It has a very underground reputation because extreme horror is not for everyone. As far as the somewhat plot of Cows goes, we follow a main character called Steven. Steven is a very strange character. He is an abused and neglected man navigating this insane life, and the book is all about his slow descent into madness as the events of his life transpire in more and more absurd and extreme ways. There are a lot of surreal elements to this book, including talking cows and an extremely graphic factory setting, as well as this very disturbing maternal relationship that Steven has. As far as the themes go for this book, we definitely talk a lot about abuse. Abuse of animals, abuse of humans, abuse of power over other humans and other animals. Emotional and physical abuse as a catalyst for depravity. The novel does like to explore cycles of violence. Steven's mother is the first secondary character that we meet in this book, and it's right from page 1. Steven doesn't see this character as a mother figure. In fact, he calls her the Hag Beast. I'll try to avoid spoilers as much as I can, because if you do want to choose to read this book, I'd rather you go in as blind as possible, except what can be read on the brief paragraph on the back. Do I recommend that you do this? Absolutely not, but it's your life, it's your choice. The Hag Beast feeds Steven absurd and disgusting and horrible meals. Stuff that would likely kill any other human being, except Steven has grown up his entire life eating this food, eating stuff like this, and has likely built up some type of immunity to raw meat and potentially feces as well. As far as other characters in this novel go, they are all treated like bags of meat. Literal animals, both literally and metaphorically, but oftentimes on the literal side of things. The violence that is depicted between humans and other humans is actually some of the most disturbing and gross and violent stuff I think I've ever read in my entire life. And as much as I do want to travel down this road of exploring more extreme horror / splatterpunk novels, I wonder if Cows kind of scared me off a little bit. I do also know that this book happens to be on the heavier side of splatterpunk extreme horror, and I kind of dove into the deep end with this being my first book in that subgenre. But if there are any others like this, I don't know if I want to read them. Steven's primary job within this novel is to try and break free. Break free from his mother, break free from his job, break free from his body. There's a lot of surrealism and symbolism in this book. Are the cows real? Some of them do talk to Stephen, and I'm not entirely sure that those ones could be depicted as real, or maybe they are. Maybe Stephen's, I'm getting into spoiler territory, sorry. As far as Stokoe's writing style goes within this novel, because again, this is the only novel by Matthew that I've read, his writing style is very nihilistic and grotesque and deliberately confrontational at every single paragraph. Someone is arguing with someone else, or something is arguing with something else, or maybe an animal is talking to a human, humans talking to an animal, but there is always some form of confrontation that is happening on the page, and that right there is actually quite impressive. The language used in the writing here is blunt and vulgar and visceral, and it all adds to the intensity that this 200-page novel really allows the reader to go through. It's hard to say if this book has pacing issues or not. It's only 200 pages, and maybe it's just the content therein that prevented me from really reading through this as fast as possible, but there are some parts that feel like it slows down a little bit, and I don't really know if that's something that you want from a book that's making you feel as gross and as inhuman as this book does. I don't really know if the gore in this book serves a thematic purpose. Like I said in the beginning, this book kind of feels like its purpose is to gross out the reader as effectively as possible. On Goodreads, I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. Now hang on there. Does that mean that this is a bad book? Yeah, probably. But by that I mean that there isn't really a plot, and the plot basically serves a purpose to gross out the reader. As far as Stokoe's writing style goes, it is pure poetry. The way that Matthew writes sentences actually makes me feel a little bit sad that he only writes in this nihilistic, grotesque manner, because if he were to take on a proper novel and tell a true story, something like Lonesome Dove, not that he would ever be able to equate to Larry McMurtry, but still, if he were able to take on a traditional story, I think he has some genuine talent here. Again, that feels like I'm insulting Matthew's writing style, and he just wants to tell the stories that he wants to tell, and that's perfectly fine. It's just, I don't know if this is the one. As far as the strengths in this book go, the one thing that I can commend Matthew for writing on is the unflinching commitment to the vision. Does this book have a strong plot? Not really, but it is fully committed to grossing out the reader, and this unrelenting focus on doing just that is amazing. It challenges the readers to their limits. It proposes some insane ideas, and the depictions of tools entering people's orifices and what these tools find inside of human bodies while they are alive is so magnificently written. Even if the content isn't something that you want to read about, you can't help but admire the way that it's written. However, does it rely too much on shock factor? Absolutely. Is there any character development? Not really. Does it cross the line into gratuitous or exploitative? I mean, for some readers, it may. There are some extremely intimate scenes that take place in this book. Not intimate between well, kind of intimate between humans. Kind of intimate between humans and animals, too. Regardless, depending on who you are reading this novel, it could be exploitative. It's hard to say. Did I feel that way? Not really, but it's entirely up to the reader. I've heard this book being related to other books in the Splatterpunk subcategory. Those books being The Wasp Factory, I want to say, what I want to say, and I can't say it because I have dyslexia. There's people looking at me through my window. This is awkward. I've also heard people relate this book in terms of films to a Serbian film. Now, personally, I have seen most of a Serbian film. I think that's taking it a step too far. I think a Serbian film is still worse than the contents depicted in this because there is no infant child abuse. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, no, maybe that is a good relation. As far as people that I would recommend this book to, I'm going to recommend this to people who are looking for experimental depravity, which sounds absolutely awful that I would recommend this to people who enjoy that type of stuff, but specifically for people who are fans of transgressive horror. A good comparison for that is people who enjoyed the film Skinamarink. Skinamarink, as far as horror films go, was very transgressive and experimental. It tried all types of things that had never really been done in a feature film before. For analog and liminal horror stuff on YouTube, yeah, of course, we'd all been seeing about the back rooms and Channel 34, is that what it's called? Greylock, stuff like this. But for feature films, that movie was leaps and bounds into a new subgenre that filmgoers had never seen before. And while this book did come out in 1999, I want to say, it's still transgressive to this day. However, it is, if I haven't made this apparent already, absolutely not for the faint of heart. To summarize my rating and my feeling, I don't know if I can really recommend this book, but I certainly can't stop thinking about it. It does make me interested in reading more books from Stokoe. Cows is easily his most famous, but he's written quite a few books since 1999. And I think this was the first book he ever had published. The fact that it was published and in 1999 of all years blows my mind. But it does kind of make me want to read more books from Stokoe. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, if I'm being honest. Hey Google, how do you pronounce Stokoe?
The most common pronunciation for Stokoe is Stohk.
Stokoe. So with all that being said, have you read Cows before? What did you think about it? Are there any other extreme horror splatterpunk books that you would like to recommend me to read? Or if you haven't read Cows, does it intrigue you? Is it something that you want to read, you want to explore, and kind of uncover the secrets of why everyone is grossed out by this book? I'd really like to know more about how y'all feel, but with that being said, this has been a fun video to make, and I really hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. It would truly mean the world, and I hope y'all have a great day. Especially you, Steven. Not this Steven. Steven, you know who you are. Have a nice day.